Hey guys, little short video clip today, relatively speaking. I want to show you guys what is my plan for my blow dryer treatments on my Boar brush. Now this one, I think this will be the sixth treatment that you'll see, and uh, it's got about 60 uses on it. And the last time I used it, before I did any of these hair dryer treatments, it still kind of felt a little wiry on my face. Not still quite soft, enjoyable, but definitely not. A lot of the tips in the core weren't split, that kind of thing. There were some that were kind of starting to split on the outside, and it hit me that I've got so many Boar brushes. They're cheap and easy to get a big collection of, right? In general, and especially my Simogs. There's just a whole bevy of inexpensive and very nice Boar brushes available from them. And Zenith has a cheap one or two, three, four cheap ones as well. Those are my two favorite brands, so that's mostly what I have. But it occurred to me that I'm never going to be able to put 300 uses on these individual brushes in any kind of short amount of time. It'll be just years and years down the road, right? By that time, I may not be shaving anymore. I might have some debilitating disease where I can't hold a razor anymore or something like that. So I thought either I need to cull the herd, I need to get rid of a bunch of them, or I need to adopt some kind of accelerator mechanism. Now, there are some out there that are popular. Sometimes people just kind of get them wet while they're using another brush as a shave, and then they'll dry it and let it sit and dry, and all they're doing is putting it through wet dry cycles. Seems to be a pretty safe way to do it. So that might be a good option. One that's gotten a lot of fame in the last couple of years is the refrigerator soak method. And I believe that one actually is spawned out of a mistranslation. The Italian barber that recorded they put the video up on YouTube that kind of launched this whole thing said you put your brush in cold water, and the translation there made people think it was refrigerator type cold, but in actuality it was just not hot water, the tap water that comes out of whatever your cold tap, cool water might have been or just room temperature water might have been a more accurate translation. And so we've got this whole fridge soak mentality. It's just taken people by storm. And it's just a misunderstanding. And I have been doing the long soak method with many of my brushes, soaking them maybe for an hour before each use, and I think that helps a little bit. I also think that's a fairly safe method because that's been my focus, right? Is these tips. You want to split them, but you don't want to have them split in an unsafe way where the little fragments break off, and then you're left with fewer tips. That's the whole point, right? Well, I thought about it, and I've got a friend, SpongeBob, who has been doing this for a little while at least, and he's really happy with his results. And with the 5 treatments or so that I've done on this guy, I think I'm pretty happy with the results so far too. Now I've got more treatments to go. I think before I use this brush again, I'm going to do 10 total treatments because I think surely that is going to let me be able to compare the face feel that I remember last time I used it with what I'm experiencing now after the treatments. Now you can, if you're interested in that fridge soak method, still you can look online and find it. But basically, you soak it in the fridge, and maybe once or twice a day, you take it out and rub it vigorously on a towel, and then put it back in the water, that sort of thing. But I don't think you really need to do it in the fridge. You could just soak it for a long time and then work it on the towel every once in a while without it being in the fridge. But his method involved the hair dryer, and I'm not trying to duplicate his method exactly, but just applying my own mind to his method. He said for just a few minutes after each shave, he blows across the tips of the brush and he didn't specify what setting he likes to use or anything like that. He did say it was a nice, well soaked brush. And what I've been doing is just soaking mine for about an hour, and then I come over here with the hair dryer and do it. I don't have to be on a shave or anything like that, so it's kind of nice. You can do it at your own pace. And so here we go. So this is pretty much fresh out of the water. I did shake it just so that it wouldn't drip as I was taking a thumbnail picture, but you can see how it's still got some drips in there. And so I started at the low setting and the not hot but warm in the temperature, and then the low speed. But it just seemed to take a really long time to dry the tips when they're this wet. And so I have upped my game to the high speed, but I'm keeping in the warm temperature setting, not the hot temperature setting. And to me, it's working out to be more than just a couple of minutes. So I'm interested in also SpongeBob's interpretation of this video to see how close it matches what he's doing, and we'll see. I will also, you can see how I'm going to show you the knot at various points. I'm not going to make you watch me the whole time, right? I'll pause and then do it and then chime back in as needed. So observe right now the knot. We've got clumping going on with big sections of it, lots of room, and it's going to be very different looking by the end. My goal here is to dry it, and I'll rotate it while I dry it to get nice and even. I'll probably be about this far away from it the whole time, and I will, in order to kind of unclump things every once in a while, I'll brush it up against something like my towel over here or sometimes my forearm here, just to kind of let the bristles become unclumped. All right, so that's what we'll do. So just for this, my suction cup is lasting less and less time. Sorry about that. My camera can only take so many falls, right? I need to, what I did was I took an alcohol pad and I cleaned up the suction cup and the little plate that it's sitting on. And so hopefully that will help it last through the rest of the session. Maybe I need to get a kind of tripod mechanism that is not suction cup related, suction cup based. All right, so let me get that hair dryer. So I'm going to do a short example now about the technique I'm going to use. Then I'll pause you and actually do it for a little while, just so you know what happens. You can mute the video in case, I don't know how loud this is going to be coming across to you, but you may want to be prepared to mute your video now. So that's basically what I'm going to do. Slowly rotate it. And what's going to happen, I can tell you by experience now, is that this knot is going to get bigger. It's going to get wider as these branches, as these bristles here around the edge kind of bend over. And it's going to be more full by the end as well. And I am kind of aiming it not fully across the top of the bristles, but I'm going to tilt it a little bit because the center is the area where I have the least amount of splitting. And so I want to make sure enough air gets in there. That's about the distance that I've been using. And then every once in a while you'll see me fluff it up, that kind of thing. So I'll pause you now while I give it a little while. All right, so a couple of minutes now, and you can see it's a little different. I have brushed it on my forearm just a little bit to kind of encourage separation, and look how it's almost developing these flower-like petals with the grouping and whatnot. You can see a few more of the bristles are starting to come out on the outer outskirts here, and we can definitely see tips. I wanted to stop right now and not forget to tell you, I don't know about the longevity of this method. This is not one that I'm advocating that you need to do with your brushes. If you are experiencing some very slow break-ins with your brushes, or you're like me and you have a lot of Boar brushes, and especially the cheaper ones, why not do this? Because even if it screws up, even if it kills your brush over the long haul, they're cheap. Just pay another $12 and buy another one. That's the kind of brush that I'm talking about doing this with. And so I can't guarantee the whether it's going to be healthy for your brush tips or not healthy. My educated guess is that it seems to be okay so far. Just want to make sure that was said. A few more minutes now, and you can see we've got some more of the outliers now, but the middle, it's changing a little bit, but it's really kind of being slow to change, and I have found that to be the case. It's possible that a better method might be to kind of work it on a towel first. I'm not really sure about that. That's kind of a question that's to me, but it's still very wet, very damp. The tips are. After maybe a minute and a half of work just now, and one or two just kind of strops up and down on the towel, you can see how we're starting to break up those big clumps. And we'll keep going. Another minute and a half, and look, it should be a little bit different. And it's one of those things where it's a slow starter because of all that moisture that has been absorbed by the bristles. Boar brushes do absorb moisture into the bristles, much more so than Badger. Of course, synthetic don't at all. And you can see now we are starting to get kind of a more fluffy look, where it's starting to get thicker around the outer edges of the knot here as more bristles make their way over there. So it should be very different than what we started out with. It should be noticeable. And now is when you have to be, to me, it seems like it would be smart to be careful and not overcook the hairs. And so that's one of the reasons why I will kind of do that. Not only does it help to break up some of the clumps, but it lets me have a feel on my skin about how the moisture level, we're still quite damp here. So I'm going to keep on going. All right, about the same amount of time again. I'm just guessing here, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. And you can see how we are starting to get even less clumping here. Now there are still some clumps on the outer ring, and I can, see there we go. Maybe if I point them that way, you can kind of see them. There are still some kind of wet areas, but in the some parts of the center, we're definitely seeing a nice fuzzy look, a cloudy look to it, and you can see that part's getting drier. And there we go. My recent kind of workings on my arms, felt that they were pretty much dry, the tips here. And so my guess is that that's a good stopping point. Now look at that bloom. A lot more population has expanded out. It has a soft look to it. There are still a few little kind of clumpy areas around kind of the rim here that you might be able to pick out. And there's definitely at the base here, it's still kind of, it's not definitely not dripping wet, but it's still got some moisture in there. And I believe what I've experienced is, as I sit this over at my desk, some of that moisture that's down in the bottom, it's been taken away from the tips for the most part, but some of that moisture that's down the bottom is going to creep up via capillary action, I would imagine, to encompass kind of the whole hairs, and it'll actually get this really cool soft texture to it, even softer than it is now. But doesn't that look nice and fluffy? And I can look in the center, and I can see the curves of some of the split tips in the center, and I haven't really had that happen before I started with this method. So visually, it looks like it's working. Hopefully it's not an abusive technique to the brush, to the tips. Well, time will tell, right? So don't take this as some kind of instructional video. It's just me plotting and my experience, so that here we have a snapshot of what this brush looks like in the 6th treatment, and then maybe I'll get online and show you guys maybe the 8th treatment, the 10th treatment, or something like that. There we go. But I mean, look, it looks terrific. I can just tell there are more split tips. So I think I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. All right, guys, there we go. Take care now. We'll just see how this little experiment goes. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, just playing around with some hair dryer Boar brush shortcut methods. And you do not need to do this with a badger brush, because badger tips don't split the same way, if at all. They get softer with age. They kind of get jelly once you've used them for many, many, many years. But they don't split. All right. Take care now.